All right, let us begin to learn LIkuti Torah. We're continuing LIkuti Torah, the Mimer and LIkuti Torah on Parshas Tazria. So the first day on Yom Rishon, right, Sunday, we learned that there is a combination inside of everything in the world. Everything in the world. Good morning. Okay, so on Sunday we learned that everything that there is in the world is combined with everything else. There's an inclusion with everything else. And this is especially expressed in the relationship between a man and a woman when they give birth to children. Because the man, he contributes in the union to have children or to have children, so he mainly contributes the feminine aspect of himself because everything is included in everything else. So he contributes to giving birth to the child. He contributes the feminine aspect. That's in order to unite with his wife. And the woman, she contributes the masculine aspect. This is, like we say, in order to unite with the husband, in order to have children, because that's the whole goal. So therefore it says that if the man is dominant, it says if he gives seed first, so it says in the Gemara, if he gives seed first, then the resultant child is feminine because his contribution, namely the feminine side of him, is called Gevura. So the child comes out to be a girl. But if the woman, she gives seed first, in other words, she's the dominant one, then she gives birth, then the resultant child is male because that's what she contributed, because everything is combined with everything else. So that's how it's possible, even the idea of the union, because the man and woman are totally opposite. But the answer is no, the man has everything included inside of himself, and he contributes to the child, birth of the child, the feminine aspect. So if he's dominant, this is if he seeds first, then the child is feminine. If the woman seeds first, then the child is a male. This is hinted at. Why are we even talking about this? Because it's hinted at in this week's Torah portion. It says, Isha ki tazria v'yolda zachar. It says if the woman gives seed, she gives birth to a son. And this sentence poses a big problem because it seems to be unnecessary. What do you have to say? If a woman gives seed, she gives birth to a son, then the law is like this: she's impure for 40 days, and etc., 7 days and 33 more days. What does it have to even say that for? It should just say if a woman gives birth to a son. What does it have to say if a woman gives seed and she gives birth to a son? So from there we learn this whole idea of that each of the partners contributes the opposite aspect of himself. So the feminine, the woman, her main contribution is her male aspect, chesed, and the male, his main contribution is the feminine aspect, which is called gevura. All right, now we're taking this now to another level in this mimer here. If this works, not doesn't work. See, okay, there we go. Taking this to another level here. And then that level is, let me see, it doesn't scroll all the way down. Aggravation. Okay. I know it doesn't, but I always hope that it'll be different. That this time is going to be different because I don't understand why it doesn't want to go down. Why? Okay. So up it goes. Okay. So let's just stop the share for one moment here. All right, here we go. I have to go and do this here. Sorry. There we go. Here it is. Okay. So we said the same thing as with the Jewish people and God. The Jewish people are called feminine, and God is called masculine. That's why we talked about this before. Why in all the prayers and in the Torah, God is always referred to as he, male, because God is the giving aspect. The giving aspect. And the Jewish people, they're the receiving aspect. Like Mother Earth, the earth receives, so it's called feminine. It receives the seed, etc. So the whole purpose of man in this world, is to realize what's the truth. And the truth is that we're being created, and that we're being created for a purpose. And when a person realizes that we're being created by God, or let's take it individual, when I realize that I am being created by God right now, and I feel this, right? This is incredible. I mean, they feel it's really true. There really is a creator, and I'm really being created by God. And this is the opposite of human nature, to feel a thing like this. And especially because it has to be renewed all the time, because the fact keeps hitting us in the face that we're not being created. We're just here. Who says we're being created? If anybody ever saw the creator? You said, and we saw, oh yes, I saw God creating me yesterday, right? No, you can't, it's the thing you can't see, you can't feel, but it's the truth. When a person feels this, and suddenly he feels that if there's anything that's valuable to him in life and that he loves, it's pale in comparison to the love that he should have for God, because God is infinitely more real than money or success or whatever. Oh, very good. Here we go. Let's move on here. Oh, my mouse is not working. Oh, there it goes. There it goes. Good. Oh. Sorry, I didn't do the share properly. Here we go. Good. So now we have LIkuti Torah. Here we go. Oh, there. So that's where it means. So love. So now we're talking about two different types of love. Love, which is powerful, that's called male. And love, which is very weak, that's called female. Usually the man is stronger than the woman, right? I mean, maybe the feminists will disagree, but when you go into sports or weightlifting or something like that, then we see that the men are stronger. Usually in battle, the men are the ones that fight. They're the ones that are the active, the powerful ones. They're the ones that go on fight. Usually, that's the way it is. I mean, it can be the other way around, but generally not. That's the male aspect of the woman. The woman, she wants to be, arouse this male aspect in her. Okay, but usually the man is strong. So what are we talking about this for? We're talking about two different types of love. That's what the Rebbe is talking about. Two different types of love. Love which is like male and love which is female. Male love is very, very strong. And now up to here, the Rebbe has been explaining what is this male love? What does it mean? What is it talking about? And so, of course, it's not only relegated to males. It's love in a masculine way. What does it mean, masculine way? Very powerful. So the Rebbe says, where does this love come from? This love comes from, first of all, what is this love? It's a love for God, which a person does not want heaven. He does not want any revelations of God. He wants to be totally united with God himself. That's all he wants. It's a love which is total self-sacrifice, right? If something is really valuable to you, so how do you know it's valuable? How much are you willing to pay? Right? How much are you willing to pay? Your father, your mother, whatever, are sick. How much are we willing to pay in order to have them healed? Right? The healing is going to be sure, but you have to pay $100, $1,000, $1 million, $10 million. Are you willing to pay it? The cure is for sure. Are you willing to pay? Right? Are you willing to give your life Nah, that's a little bit too much. Oh yeah, really? Okay, then it's not that valuable to you. Something that's really valuable, a person is willing to pay everything. Right. Well, as soon as a person starts to reveal how wonderful God is and how precious God is, so he's willing to give everything to God. Right. That was the story we just had last week with Nadav and Avihu. Right. They loved God so much they were willing to give everything. They did it improperly because God doesn't want us to commit suicide or to do things what they did. Right. We have to do things in a normal. We'll learn about that in the Sikha when we're going to learn about Sorat. But nevertheless, that's a very, very powerful love for God, that you're willing to do anything. That's called b'chol me'odecha. In the first chapter, there's three paragraphs of Shma Yisrael. The main are the first two. The first one says that you should love God with all of your heart and all of your might, all of your me'odecha. And the second one says that you're going to have to gather in your food and things like this. This is why I thought that if Jews do what God wants, that they're free to learn Torah and to serve God, that their work is done by others. It says, yeah, that's only if they serve God b'kol miodecha. Like in the second paragraph of the Shema Yisrael, it doesn't say b'kol miodecha. What is miodecha? Me'od means with all of your being. So that's this type of love. It's like loving God with all of your being. And this is a gift. This type of love is a gift from God. It's a gift. I'm sure you've seen. There's people in music and sports, in drama, things like that, and everything. There's thousands of people, tens of thousands of people that try out, right, to be tennis players, to be golfers, to be musicians, to be pianists. And there's always one or two that just are really gifted. And when they're gifted means they're just totally devoted, right? The people pay them all sorts of money just to come and see them or to hear them, because it's not really something above normal. It's a gift. Gifted. So that's the same type of a thing. Here we're talking about loving God. Loving God. That's really something that's much more meaningful and harmonious and beautiful than music or sports or all these other things, which they all have their values and virtues. We're talking about loving God. Loving God is the essence, really, of life, the purpose of life. A person is in the proper, is using his energy in the proper way to love God. That doesn't preclude him being a musician or him being into sports or whatever. You can do those things also, but a person, some people are just gifted. And the Rebbe said that all of us can be gifted in that way. That's called male love. From where does it come? That's what we said. If the woman gives seed first, if the Jewish people, they strive to try to love God, or each and every person. I'm just saying Jewish people because this is the commandment, this is to the Jewish people. But eventually it's going to be the whole world. But let's just talk about the Jewish people. The Jewish people, if the Jewish people, or each and every individual Jew, or any individual Jew, strives to love God, tries to do from below to above, as then God can give a gift. And that person becomes gifted with love. He has a tremendous, powerful love. That's called masculine love, very powerful. I'm sorry, no, that's the lower. Okay, and therefore, this type of love is talking about loving God, serving God, not in order to receive a reward. We're going to learn that this afternoon. We're going to learn Pirkei Avot. Instead of, we finished learning the Torah portion, basically, right, with the Tazria Mitzvah. We learned those laws. And we learned certain Rashis and Orachayim and things like that. Now we're going to learn Pirkei Avot, because that's what we're learning now. Right? We're learning now. And that's what we'll do each week, God willing. We'll try to finish as much as we can in the Torah portion, but we'll also include in it learning Pirkei Avot. But let's try it this week and we'll see how it works. And that's what it says right in the beginning. It says, did you have to serve Yossi ben Yoezer? What is it? You should serve God not in order to receive reward. There is reward, of course, but this means serving God, not thinking about yourself at all. That's called the Mishnah, Shalo Almanat Lakabel Pras. This is serving God not in order to receive anything for yourself. This is called Ne'anim Pras. What does it mean, not in order to receive reward? We have absolutely no idea how pleasurable is heaven. It's brought in Chassidut a lot, but there's a Gemara. I think it's in Tainit. I have to look and see. Anyway, and it says that there was a Jewish person, a big sinner, but he was also a tremendous genius, Torah genius. And his name was Elisha ben Avua, his Acher. It said when he died, his soul couldn't go up to heaven, although he did all these commandments because he was a big sinner. But on the other hand, he couldn't go down to hell because he had done so many, he couldn't go down to hell because he learned so much Torah and he knew what he had done. So he was in limbo. So his pupil prayed for him that he should go to hell. And it says smoke came up from his grave for a certain amount of time. So it says that you should know what it means to go to hell. It says to be going to hell, one moment of hell is like 70 years of the pains of Job, all concentrated every moment, right? Like sitting on a dentist chair multiplied by 1,000 for, every second for year, 10 years. Incredible, right? Without any anesthetic. Incredible pain. So it says it's worth it. It's worth it 70 years in hell just to get one moment in heaven. The pleasure of heaven is so tremendously infinite that it's worth it, all these pains, in order to get that. In other words, it's indescribable pleasure going to heaven. It says, nevertheless, going to heaven, that's cheap. That's cheap thrills compared to the essence of God. That's compared to, in this world, we get pleasure. In this world, right, we get pleasure. Also in the future world, you go to the world to come heaven, you get pleasure. I'm sorry. When you go to heaven, you get pleasure. But in this world, physical world, you can give God pleasure. You can do the commandments. We'll talk about that in a moment. Nevertheless, when a person realizes that heaven and all the heavens, as pleasurable as they are, it's absolutely nothing. It's peanuts compared to the essence of God. So how much a person will have love for God? He doesn't want any prizes. All he wants is to be connected to God, even in this second. Who cares a prize? Who cares about going to heaven? That's what it means, in order to receive pras, in order to receive a reward. This level that a person gets when he goes to heaven, which is called enjoying, getting pleasure from the ray of godliness. This is called pras. This is like a prize, and the word pras means like a little piece. Like it says, divide, spread out to the poor people your bread. And there's a little piece. Going to heaven, as much pleasure as it is, it's nothing. It's absolutely nothing compared to the essence of God. Good, if you compare the pleasures of heaven to the pleasures of this world, it's 1,000,000 times more. But if you compare the pleasures of the world to come to the essence of God, then pleasure itself, the word pleasure itself, is meaningless. It's absolutely meaningless. Who cares about pleasure? Pleasure is what I get. When you appreciate the essence of God, it's like if you got the permission to go into see the king. Nowadays, there's no kings. You got permission to see the king of the country. And someone from the side says, hey, how would you like $10,000? Right? Come over. You won't even listen to him. You won't pay any attention to him. You're standing in front of the king. So the same thing is, A person realized that hey, the King of the universe is creating me. Wow, I owe him everything, every single instant. That's a tremendous love. But that love is a gift. That type of love is called masculine love. And it's a gift. And it comes when the woman gives seed first. What's the woman? That we try from below. We try without any inspiration to come closer to God. That's the woman giving birth, Jewish people. That's the woman giving seed first. Then it gives birth to a masculine love, this tremendous, I just say, unbounded love. And therefore, therefore, a person doesn't want even to go to heaven. He doesn't even want this ray of godliness, as great as it is. But what does he want? He wants to just be clinging to the body of the king. It's a way of saying, to the essence of God. To be completely negated to the essence of Or Ein Sof Baruch Hu. Asher Sham Prusa Anal. There it's called a little piece without kalom mamish chashiva, like a tip of unkis, like a little drop of water in the Pacific Ocean. So all these heavens and everything, it's like a little drop of water in the ocean. The ocean is the source of all the water. Right, the source of the water. Just like God is the source of all the heavens. And here, God is accessible to us if we just open our minds to it, right? But we can't really open up our minds to it, but this is a gift. If we try from below, that's the feminine aspect, from below to above. If we try to love God, then we get this big gift, which is called a masculine love, which which is not the case, Yaldaza Nakeva, which is not the case if the birth, the type of love is feminine. It's called feminine. Why? This is a small love. This is a love of God in order to receive the rewards of heaven. Which this is, how do you say? It should only be that we should get to this level. If we want to serve God at all. I know that he wants to be close to God and he wants to cling to him. This is also a very wonderful level. What we're not talking about, this is talking about a person that he really wants God, but the only way he can really translate this to be meaningful to him, because that's the key word here, to be meaningful. It has to be something that's really meaningful. To say all these ideas and these wonderful philosophical things, right? It's very nice. It's a very good and wonderful, exciting ideas. But to actually come to love God, more than I love money or I love myself, or to love God, it has to be something meaningful to me. So you say to a person, listen, you know how much pleasure God has in store for you, right? All the pleasures of this world are like nothing. The pleasures of heaven are infinitely more. Oh yeah, really? So in other words, it means I shouldn't get mad. I shouldn't have lust. I shouldn't go running after all sorts of forbidden things. I shouldn't. No, don't do that. Because God's love for you, it is waiting for you. It's even greater. Good. That's inspiring. That's the thing that's inspiring. On the other hand, if I say the essence of God, I don't know what he's talking about. So he says there's what's called a lower type of love. Hainu shetishaer atzmus u'mahusa nefesh. A person will remain how he is, but he'll be clinging to God in heaven. In other words, I don't want to lose myself. I want to get the biggest prize possible. I want to devote myself to God, but I'm not going to lose myself. That's called what it says, nefesh avisicha. That's what it means. My soul desires you, like a person that desires his soul, his life. Lochin, therefore, bocher yoter bebechinas apras shu ragziv hora. This is a person that he still feels his own ego, and he still wants to be a separate person, but he wants to be a holy person, which is a wonderful thing. But it's a very basic thing that we're talking about in Chassidut, in Chabad, where it talks about what is the ultimate goal, completion of a person. What's the ultimate goal? We're not talking about middle levels, right? Let's say you have a piano player, he plays in bars or something like this, and everybody says, wow, you're the greatest, you're the best. And they say, it's coming to town, it's coming the greatest piano player in the world, Arturo Rubinstein or Vladimir Horowitz or somebody's coming and he's playing, go to see him. But you're a good person. Says, yeah, sure, maybe I'll learn a couple tricks from him. He goes and he can't believe it. He can't believe that a person can play like this. And the music is something, he just feels, right? So you want to be like that, you have to devote all your time. I'm not going to devote myself that much, but I would really like to have that level. But not to the point that I'm going to devote myself totally. The same thing is here. A person loves God because of what he'll receive, right? Wow, God is big. He's bigger than me. He's bigger than the stars. He's bigger than the sky, right? In other words, he relates it only to himself. And so this is a type of love of God, right? This is the type of love of God that is talking about a lower type of a love of God. It should only be, we should get to that level. But nevertheless, you should know that that's not the ultimate truth. That's not the ultimate truth. The ultimate truth is to be totally, a person wants to totally be negated in the essence of God. This is what's called a tzaddik gamor, a total tzaddik. In other words, he is connected to the essence of God. Just like these piano players are connected to music. They're connected to music. So this person is lahavdil, is connected to God. I once saw one of these pianists that I was talking about. They can sit and just off the cuff, they can play like 100, songs from the greatest composers, the most complicated things. They can play by heart because it's just part of they're just totally united with this music. It's totally, really incredible. Well, this is a different, totally, this is just an example I'm giving you. But to be united with the essence of Hashem, then it becomes a totally natural thing for the person. This is a totally different level. That's what's called the upper love, or the masculine love, powerful love. And that comes when we start first. But how does this feminine love come? This is called small love, and it's called feminine. Why? Because it says like women usually datum colors. They're more like emotional. Also at the tafel ikar, they can sometimes make the secondary thing into the main thing. Namely, that what does it mean secondary thing? This is the type of love that a person, he wants to go to heaven. Heaven is a good thing. He wants some sort of reward. He doesn't want to lose himself totally. Bishvil ha ligrameshalo, in order to receive his own. This is one thing also, what is men go to war, because a man can devote himself totally and stand in this. That's the nature of man. We saw it in World War II in these places. How many soldiers were killed? I think like 500,000 American soldiers were killed, and all the other sides. Soldiers were killed, but they went into the thick of battle and they weren't afraid. They didn't shirk. They had the goal in mind. That's called a powerful the devotion, if you want to call it, to the goal. So that's this powerful love is of God, right? This is a total devotion of surrender totally to God. This is what's called masculine love, and it can only be given by a gift from God. And this gift only can come by means of our beginning the work. That's what it means. The woman will give seed first. This is the level of, is called nighttime. This smaller love is called nighttime. This is choshech. Where does it come from? That's what it means when a feminine gives, when the woman aspect, in other words, we from below, we start the love, we instigate this love, then it gives birth to a male. God reacts in a way that gives us this tremendously powerful love. Right? If we work from below, we're the feminine aspect from below, then we get this gift from God, which is called masculine powerful love, mash'enkin, which is not the case. If the man, he gives seed first, then the love, the resultant love is feminine. What does this mean? No, it's known that love and fear that a person arouses in his soul, this is just an arousal from below, and it arouses a love and fear that comes from above. This is what's called the arousal from above. So who starts? If we start from below, then God gives us this gift of awareness of him that makes a powerful love. But if God starts the whole process, if we start first, then a person makes effort holy to give birth to love and fear of God. Then miruach binasa, from his own understanding, right, from the darkness, we surge up and we want to connect to the Creator. Then if we're the ones that begin, the feminine aspect, that's us from below, then there's drawn down an arousal from above, which is from the level of Madrigas Gavoa, from a higher level. This comes from the inside of the love, the light, and the life force that shines from Orient Sof Baruch. And by means of this, gives birth to what's called a Zachar, a powerful love of God. Sheyara, love Ruach Mimarom, that God gives him a gift from above. Liot Ahava, that his heart changes and becomes a level of this tremendous love, which is above understanding. And like I said, this is only a gift to very rarely to the greatest of tzaddikim. But nevertheless, this is the truth. When Mashiach comes, eventually, everyone will be at this level. That's how the Tanya starts off, Teit Tzaddik. An awareness simply of the truth. That he wants to be included in the body of the king. But sometimes, sometimes if a person is not inspired and he does not work to serve God, nevertheless, all of a sudden there comes this arousal from above, an inspiration. There comes an arousal and inspiration first. The aura to arouse this love from below. In other words, God is the one that begins. If God begins, then what type of love is aroused? That's called Ish Mazriya Techila. That means the man, he's the one that gives seed first. Then this arousal, since this arousal comes from God alone, and it comes without any arousal from below, this is only chitzonius, it's only external light and life that shines from, and so therefore, even though that it does arouse a level of love, it arouses us this because it comes alone. God is the one that he's the instigator, right? All of a sudden a person gets this, right? He's sitting at a bar somewhere, who knows what, suddenly he gets an arousal, or some Chabadnik comes in and says, would you, any Jews here? Someone would like to put on tefillin, right? That means that he didn't do anything. The arousal just came from outside. It came from God. He rak bechinas nekeva. Then the love that he gets is a weaker love. That's called feminine. Shu avazut. That's a small type of love. L'ravas samona lavad. And then all he's thinking about is that I just want the best for me. And not to pour himself out. And he's not thinking about, wow, I just want to be clinging to God. That's all that I want. God is not real to him. But what is real to him is he feels his soul. Suddenly he feels his own soul. And I want what's best for my soul. What am I hanging around in bars for? What am I messing around with just money for? Things in the world, right? Wow, I can go to heaven. I can get this tremendous, right? I'm on the wrong track. I'm working for the wrong boss. I'm investing my energies in the wrong stocks, right? What am I in the world for? I should be thinking about God. Then I'm going to get the best reward. No, this is also a type of love, also a type of love of God. It says, but this is a small love of God. This is very common. Sometimes about shuvas, it used to be more 60s, 70s, but there's also a person about shuva. About shuva used to be that he was, he would suddenly he realizes that it's ridiculous, all of the pleasures that he has in this world, or whatever reason it is, and suddenly he gets this arousal, this inspiration that, wow, I got to get out of here. I want to be close to God. I want to be close to God, right? But the whole arousal comes from above, so to speak. He didn't really work at it from below. And then a lot of times it's easy come, easy go. As soon as the arousal, the inspiration is gone from above, and now he's on his own, he fades out. Right? You took off the training wheels, whatever, his father's standing in front of the child, come, okay, Junior, drive your bicycle. The child has a goal to go to. As soon as his father is gone, or takes the training wheels off, he falls down once, and that's it. He doesn't want to drive the bicycle anymore. It's the same thing. Sometimes a person gets a big arousal to serve God. I'm going to do the Torah. I'm going to do the commandments. I'm a Jew. But something wrong, somebody laughs at him or something like that. And one day he doesn't put on, the next day he doesn't put on tefillin, and then he just forgets about the whole thing. Because the love was very weak, because it came from the outside. And that's called, if the male gives seed first, in other words, God aroused him from the outside, then the resultant love is feminine. Okay, here it says, just look at these different places and etc. Okay. So now, if you remember, this mimer that we're learning now is based on this idea, this very problematic sentence that's in the blessings of the wedding. One of the 7 blessings that's said for a bride and groom when they get married. And what is it? Sus tassis will rejoice, and be, happy, the barren woman, when she gathers her sons to her in joy. And the Rebbe said, well, how is she going to be happy and gather children to her in joy if she's barren? A barren woman means she has no children. So how is she going to be barren? Maybe she was barren. But that's not what it says. It says the barren woman, right? The woman that can't give birth to children will be happy when her children are gathered to her. So the Rebbe said, what does that mean? Also, he pointed out that this word tasis v'tagel, that in Hebrew grammar, it could be that she will be happy or that you will make her happy. We're asking God, tasis, God, please make happy the barren woman when she gathers her sons to her. In Hebrew, it could be you should, or it's a request, or she will. That's Hebrew grammar. Okay, now it says this lower love, this is called akara. This lower love, which we said is feminine love, what do we say? If the male gives seed first, it gives birth to a female, a very weak type of love. Well, this weak type of love, this is called barren. Even though she loves Nakeva, even though a woman, even though the Jewish people it says that if God is the instigator, that he gives seed first, that he gives birth to a female, a weak type of a love, even though she gives birth to this weak type of love, but nevertheless, it's called barren. Why is she called barren? As though she doesn't give birth to anything at all. Like I said before, right? Like I gave you the example of the Baal Tshuva, right? Suddenly, all of a sudden, someone comes up to him and says, put on tefillin, and he says, okay, and the Chabadniks come and say, come sit with us and enjoy it, and he goes to the yeshiva, and everybody treats him really nice, and before he didn't have any friends, and also God starts inspiring him a little bit, and he says, wow, God really exists, and this is really great, and he puts on tefillin, but as soon as it goes away, and people don't treat him like a little baby anymore, and they don't give him any special attention, and there's a little bit of problems, he goes to the lunchroom, somebody pushes him, or somebody sits in his place or something, then the love is so weak that the connection that he has to God is so weak. That's what's called feminine, because it didn't come from him. It came from the outside. It came from the male, namely God. He was the one that instigated the whole thing. He was the one that had the seed first. So therefore, it's very weak, and it goes away. So that's called barren. Lafisha Gama Yoledazu, because it comes not from itself, from his own efforts. It's only because there was an arousal from the outside, from above, so to speak. The man, namely God, he arranged it that the man would give seed first. God would give seed first. The person would be inspired from the outside. If so, this is not really called giving birth. Therefore, it's called akara. That it says tagel akara. That's what it says, that the barren woman will be happy when she gathers her sons to her. How can she gather her sons? Even though that she is akara, even though that she is barren and she can't give birth to anything on her own, she can't make this arousal from below so that God will give this gift. Ella Esarusa, but the whole thing depends from above, right? Nevertheless, she'll gather sons, powerful love. How can this be? That's what it says, b'simcha, by means of joy. Simcha shel mitzvah, that a Jew, even though he hasn't got the ability to love God, and even though he's the only way he's going to have any connection to God whatsoever is if he gets some sort of an arousal from above to make him realize that God really exists and how good God is and how God creates him and how God loves him, etc. He has no awareness of this whatsoever unless he gets inspired from the outside. That's called barren. He has nothing of his own. Nevertheless, he can arouse in himself this love of God, like masculine, powerful love of God. How can he do it? We just said he can't do it. It says by means of what's called simcha shel mitzvah, joy. By means of joy, then there can be this level. What does this mean? God willing, we'll find out tomorrow how to achieve this level of joy, simcha shel mitzvah, which that's really relevant to all of us now. It's really relevant to all of us. It's very hard, if not impossible, for us to really take this really, really seriously, that God is so valuable that we're willing to give ourselves to him and we cry out to God and we want the revelation of God, right? The oneness of God, to be like Abraham, to be like this. It's very hard for us. Says the Rebbe, don't worry about it. That's what it says. Even if you're barren, totally barren, you have no ability to give birth to this love on your own, but there's what's called the joy of the commandments. God gave the commandments in the world, and in the commandments is this amazing treasure house of godliness, which is available and accessible to everybody. That's the joy of the commandments, which we're going to talk about tomorrow, how to achieve and maintain. All right, now we're going to learn this beautiful sikha of the Rebbe. Beautiful, beautiful sikha of the Rebbe. Good morning. Chodesh Tov, right, that's right. Rosh Chodesh, month of Iyar. Let's see if we can talk about this today.